Hey guys, it's Sagar and welcome to this huge comparison video. In this one, I am putting the cameras on the Xiaomi 12 Pro, OnePlus 10 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro up against each other. All these phones have very impressive set of cameras, and if you watch their individual camera reviews, you might know they each have their key advantages. So it will be really interesting to see how they perform when put up against each other. Out of these phones, the Xiaomi 12 Pro and the OnePlus 10 Pro are priced closer to each other, and the iPhone 13 Pro is in a price league of its own. So we will be considering all of this when we compare the image and video samples from these phones. We have to take a look at a lot of image and video samples. So to save us some time, instead of telling you all the camera specs on these phones, I will just leave them on this slide. You can pause the video if you want to go through them. In today's day and age, any smartphone's video shooting capabilities are just as important, or in some cases even more important than its images. So keeping that in mind, let us start by checking out the videos that these phones can take. Xiaomi 12 Pro and the OnePlus 10 Pro can shoot 8K videos at 24 FPS. These videos are incredibly detailed, but they would have looked so much better if they were shot at 30 FPS. 24 FPS videos already feel choppy, and since 8K video capture is very demanding, the phone gets very hot while shooting them, especially if you are capturing them in hot sunny conditions like in this video. And with these phones getting very hot, they tend to skip a few frames here and there, which makes these videos even more choppy. While 8K videos look great, and in the future most of the videos will be shot in this resolution, I'm sure right now more than 95% of the people getting these phones won't even have an 8K display to view them on. And these videos also consume a lot of storage space, so I suggest most people getting these phones should stick to 4K videos for now. Out of the three, only the OnePlus 10 Pro can shoot 4K 120fps videos with its main camera. The processors on the Xiaomi 12 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro are more than capable of shooting at this resolution, but for some reason both of them don't get this option. These 4K 120fps videos are played back at normal speed when you look at them on your OnePlus 10 Pro, and if you want to slow them down, you will have to do it in your post-production workflow. I just love shooting 4K 120fps videos with the OnePlus 10 Pro. The phone gets very hot if you are shooting these videos for a long time, but it still lets you continue shooting and doesn't give you an overheating warning like the OnePlus 9 Pro did last year. All three can shoot 4K 60fps videos, and if you are looking at their individual videos, they look really good. When you put them up side by side, the difference is subtle, but you can see iPhone's video showing the best, or I should say most natural looking colors. OnePlus is processing the colors a bit too much, and we can even see a very minute jitter in its videos with each of my step. The Xiaomi 12 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro are handling the stabilization slightly better. Xiaomi's video has a slight magenta tone to the sky and a bit more contrast in it, which depending on your preference, you may or may not like. I personally don't like that much contrast in my videos. You can play back these videos at normal speed or even slow them down if you want in your video editing software. I shoot 60fps videos only when I think I might have to slow down some part of the footage. For rest of my videos, I started shooting at 4K 30fps. These videos also look really good from all, but they still have the same look. iPhone's videos look the most natural, color and dynamic range wise. OnePlus has good dynamic range for these videos, but the colors are overly saturated since it is using Rec 2020 color profile. And Xiaomi's videos again have a lot of contrast, so the shadows in its videos look very dark. You will of course notice these things only when you compare these videos side by side. If you look at these videos individually, you might not even notice the difference that easily. So yes, while Xiaomi and OnePlus have the upper hand when it comes to video resolution options, Apple still stands tall with overall better video quality. But I must say, the gap is getting smaller and smaller each year. One thing that you should know is that all these phones get very hot if you shoot a lot of videos with them in bright sun. Here is a 1080p 240fps slow motion video sample from all these phones. Xiaomi 12 Pro can go even further and record 1080p videos in 960fps, but we all know that is frame interpolation and not true 960fps. Although all these videos are shot at the same frame rate and resolution, the metadata for these videos show that the iPhone captures highest bitrate, followed by Xiaomi and then OnePlus for these videos. What this means is, there is more information in iPhone's slow motion videos than the other two, and if you look closer, you will notice it in its slow motion videos. Before we go ahead, I would like to tell you that these kind of videos take a lot of time and efforts to make. So if you have enjoyed this video so far, please hit the like button and also subscribe to the channel if you are new here. With that, let us move on to the images, and we will start by checking out the ones which I took in bright sunny lighting conditions. All these phones get huge sensor on their main camera, so there is a lot of information in these images. Xiaomi 12 Pro and OnePlus 10 Pro get high resolution sensors, but these are 12 megapixel binned images from both of them. We can see amazing details even if I zoom in on these images 2 to 3 times, and even from this far, it is difficult to say whose image is sharper. There are some obvious differences in these images. Like the Xiaomi 12 Pro is capturing more contrast, which makes the shadows in its shots look a lot darker. You will also notice that the OnePlus 10 Pro is making most of its images appear a lot warmer. Yes, it was a hot summer day, but the colors were not as warm as OnePlus is showing them. Xiaomi 12 Pro and the iPhone 13 Pro are showing more accurately how the scene looked in real life. At a certain point, all these phones struggle at capturing accurate white balance and color temperature of the scene. At times, the iPhone 13 Pro and the Xiaomi 12 Pro have a slight green tint in the images. And more often, the OnePlus 10 Pro tends to make the sky look magenta and tries to give the overall image a warmer look. Speaking of colors, this is how all of them handle darker or more saturated tones. For this set of images, iPhone is the closest to how the colors were in real life. Xiaomi 12 Pro again has more contrast, and the OnePlus 10 Pro has flattened the shot for some reason. If I zoom in on this same shot, you can see that the iPhone has captured more details than the other two, which is a bit surprising since the Xiaomi 12 Pro and the OnePlus 10 Pro have a much higher resolution main sensor. In this shot, this time the colors are all over the place on the Xiaomi 12 Pro. It made the leaves look too dark and saturated, but that is not how they looked in real life. iPhone and OnePlus are closer to how the actual colors look this time. OnePlus again tried to make this shot look warmer, and the Xiaomi 12 Pro just went overboard with the saturation and contrast in its image. iPhone 13 Pro has again captured overall balanced looking image. This is the common theme. iPhone barely deviates and delivers consistent results, but the other two are not that consistent. It is not like they are capturing bad looking colors. It's just that they are not consistent, and Xiaomi needs to tone down the contrast on the 12 Pro. In the end, everyone perceives color in a different way, and which of these images you like will depend on your personal preference. That brings us to the HDR Shots. This is where the OnePlus 10 Pro does better than the other two. You can see it brought back much more details on the shadows while preserving the brighter areas of the scene and also made the colors look good. While the HDR mode on the iPhone 13 Pro and the Xiaomi 12 Pro performed average at best. We see the same thing in this shot. OnePlus clearly made the sky look magenta when it was definitely blue, but its dynamic range is on point. It brought back so much more details from the shadows and at the same time kept the bright sun from overexposing the sky. The other two tried to take care of the bright sun in the shot, but they failed to bring enough details from the shadows of the leaves. The story repeats in this shot as well. OnePlus did the best, but in this one, iPhone 13 Pro did slightly better than the Xiaomi 12 Pro, both for the shadows and the brighter sky. So yes, out of these three, the HDR mode on the OnePlus 10 Pro performs the best, but that is when it fires. As good as the HDR mode on this phone is, if you have it set to auto, the phone just won't turn it on for half of the shots, which completely defeats the purpose like you can see in this shot. Here, iPhone did the best with the dynamic range and OnePlus didn't even fire the HDR mode. So for taking better HDR shots with the OnePlus 10 Pro, either turn it on manually for harsh lighting conditions or have it turned on all the time. Please don't rely on the auto HDR mode to save your shot. Every once in a while, Xiaomi 12 Pro also took a better HDR shot than the other two, but this happened very rarely in my testing. So Xiaomi, and even Apple for that matter, need to step up their HDR game. Coming to the close-up shots, all three are very fast and accurate at setting the focus on any nearby object. As you can see, the leaf in this shot is in perfect focus from all of them, and the background gets a very creamy bokeh. All of them have a huge sensor, so the minimum focusing distance from them is a bit more, which means you will have to be a good 6 to 8 inches away from the subject at least for the focus to be set. If you are too close to the subject, then the plane of focus becomes very thin and the things closest to the subject might have a bit of fringing. So if you feel that your close-up shots are not too sharp, or if any of these phones are taking more time to set the focus, just move your phone a few inches away from the subject and the focus will be set in no time. Images from the iPhone 13 Pro and Xiaomi 12 Pro have slightly more contrast, which makes their close-up shots seem to have a bit more depth in them, while ones from the OnePlus 10 Pro look a bit flatter. It was very windy when I was trying to capture these flowers, and they were moving all around the place. But in the end, all of them did a very good job of freezing the frame and not blurring the moving flowers. Now out of these three, only the iPhone 13 Pro gets the ability to shoot macro shots. Wide lens on the iPhone 13 Pro also doubles as a macro lens. Could you believe that? Xiaomi and OnePlus both have had put amazing macro cameras on their previous phones, and this year for some reason they just decided to skip it, and that too on their flagship smartphones. That makes the iPhone 13 Pro the undisputed winner for macro shots in this comparison, as the other two don't even have that option. All these phones have cameras with 3 different focal lengths. Primary camera has a normal or wide lens, and then there is an ultra wide and a telephoto lens as well. Until now, we have seen the images from main or a wide camera on all of them. And now, here are how the ultra wide angle images look like. These lenses let you get much bigger scene in the shot. Xiaomi and OnePlus again have a higher megapixel sensor behind this lens, but these are 12 megapixel binned images. Here is how the normal camera sees the scene, and here is how much more the ultra-wide angle lens will let you get in the shot by standing at the same exact spot. So these lenses come in very handy when you want to capture something huge and you don't have enough space to move back, or when you want to show a very unique perspective of the scene. Normally, wide cameras don't have the best lens optics in front of them, so we see more noise in their images, details are not that great, and they might even have distortion towards the edges. But you will notice these things only when you zoom in on these shots, but otherwise they look really good from this far. If you want to get closer to your subject, you can switch to the telephoto lens on all these phones. iPhone 13 Pro and the OnePlus 10 Pro get 77mm focal length on this lens, but the Xiaomi 12 Pro only gets 48mm focal length. So iPhone gets a 3x optical zoom lens compared to its primary camera, OnePlus gets 3.3x optical zoom, and Xiaomi gets 2x optical zoom. I think the zoom lens on the iPhone 13 Pro and the OnePlus 10 Pro are more useful as they give you more reach. iPhone gets a 12MP sensor behind this lens, so its zoomed in shots are sharper compared to the 8MP ones from the OnePlus 10 Pro. Xiaomi has put a 50MP sensor behind this telephoto lens, so even if we digitally zoom in further on its 2x shots, we still see plenty of details in its shot. I wanted to capture these flowers, but they were pretty high up on the tree. The zoom lens comes in very handy in these situations. The flowers still seem pretty small in Xiaomi 12 Pro's shot, which makes me really wish that it came with a 3x or higher optical zoom lens as well. I took 3x digitally zoomed in shots from the telephoto lens on the Xiaomi 12 Pro, and I think it looks almost as good as the 3x shot from the other two phones. Now on the Xiaomi 12 Pro and the OnePlus 10 Pro, you can switch to the high resolution mode, and here are how those images compare against the 12MP ones from the iPhone 13 Pro. From this far, we can't see any difference in the details being captured. We need to zoom in 6 or 7 times to see any difference, and when we do, images from OnePlus and Xiaomi look sharper, whereas the iPhone's images don't have as many details. When comparing 50MP shots from the Xiaomi 12 Pro with the 48MP one from the OnePlus 10 Pro, OnePlus's image might seem sharper since it is applying a lot of sharpening to its shots. But if you look closer, Xiaomi's images in fact have more details in them, and they also look much cleaner. iPhone's 12MP images just start looking like watercolor paintings when we zoom in this far on them. Well, these are just 12MP shots, so we can't really expect a lot from them. As detailed as these high resolution shots are, they are huge in terms of file size, and you will have to zoom in 6 to 7 times to notice any extra bit of details. So considering all this, I suggest you to stick with the default 12MP mode on all of your phones and switch to the high resolution mode only when you want to crop in a certain part of the image later on. The wide cameras on the Xiaomi 12 Pro and the OnePlus 10 Pro also get a 50MP sensor, and they can take high resolution images as well. These shots are again more detailed than the 12MP shots from the iPhone 13 Pro, but for some reason they just don't seem to look like 50MP shots. That being said, they still look sharper than 12MP wide shots, so it's a win. Again, these images take up a lot of storage space, so it is best to stick with the default 12MP shots for these cameras as well. That brings us to the portrait shots. I know very few people use this mode, but it is my most favorite mode on any smartphone. I take over 70% of my images in this mode, so any phone's portrait mode performance is a make or break thing for me. The main subject of the shot is in sharp focus from all the phones, but there is a difference in the way they capture skin tones. I tried taking these images in various lighting conditions, and the skin tones and even the overall colors look very natural in the portrait shots on the iPhone 13 Pro. OnePlus makes the skin appear a bit pale, and Xiaomi is again adding more contrast. I don't mind a bit of contrast in my shots, but the Xiaomi 12 Pro is just crushing the shadows at this point, and I don't prefer this look. OnePlus 10 Pro is the slowest of the three at detecting edges, but its overall edge detection has got slightly better with one of the software updates. If you guys saw its dedicated camera review, you might remember it was really struggling with this. iPhone 13 Pro gets the LiDAR sensor to help it detect the edges better when the lighting conditions are less than ideal. So we see better edge detection in its low light portrait shots compared to the other two. You can shoot zoomed in portrait shots with all three phones. iPhone and Xiaomi use their telephoto lens for these shots. So on the iPhone 13 Pro, you get portrait shots with a 77mm focal length, which is the closest to the 85mm focal length, which is most preferred lens for portraits. And the Xiaomi 12 Pro's zoomed in portrait shots are shot at 48mm. OnePlus 10 Pro just uses digital zoom on the main sensor for these zoomed in portrait shots. I like Xiaomi 12 Pro's focal length for these portraits since there is no compression or distortion at 48mm. But again, high contrast in these portrait shots don't make them look all that good. Since OnePlus is using digital zoom, the subject doesn't look as sharp in its zoomed in portrait shots. And again, iPhone 13 zoomed in portraits are looking more balanced with overall better colors and almost perfect edge detection. I showed these images to many of my friends, some of whom are even looking to get one of these phones. Everyone liked different phones for daytime shots, close-up shots and for videos. But when it came to portrait shots, 7 out of 8 people loved the ones from the iPhone 13 Pro. All these phones can take portraits of objects as well. And again, I know many people don't take images of objects in the portrait mode, but I do, and normally most phones perform better at this. It is surprising to see iPhone do better with the edges for a glass bottle filled with water. Until last year, others did really well with these kind of portrait shots and the iPhone struggled a lot, but this year it is the other way around. For these portraits, I think iPhone and OnePlus are doing better. Xiaomi 12 Pro isn't bad by any means, and if you look at its images alone, they will look really good on their own. But this is a comparison video, so I'm going to have to make some hard choices. If it could manage the contrast a bit better, I think all images from the Xiaomi 12 Pro would look much better. With that, let us move on to the indoor and artificially lit images. All three phones have big sensor, wide aperture and OIS on the main camera, which helps them capture incredible amount of details even in these lighting conditions. While OnePlus and Xiaomi have handled the dynamic range better in this shot, they completely change the white balance and make the image look warmer, when in fact the lights were white like you can see in the iPhone's image. You will see something similar in this shot. OnePlus tried to make the lights appear much warmer than they were. Actual color of the scene is like you see in iPhone's image. For this shot, Xiaomi 12 Pro also did somewhat better job. Leaving the color temperature and white balance difference aside, sometimes OnePlus 10 Pro captures much softer images like you can see here. For some reason, it failed to capture a sharper image while the other two have captured a lot of details in their shot. I've seen this happen on more than one occasion. I even checked and made sure that the lens was clean, but some of the shots still came out much softer from the OnePlus 10 Pro in artificial lighting conditions. These are flagship phones with amazing cameras, so even as the light got lower, they kept on capturing good looking images. There is some noise being added as the light gets even lower, but all three are doing a good job to keep it at a minimum. I think the Xiaomi 12 Pro is capturing the most amount of details in these lighting conditions. If there is any ambient light around, you can get away with good looking images from all even without the night mode turned on. But when the light gets as low as you can see in this shot, it is best to turn it on as it will add a lot of light to the shot. When you switch to the night mode, make sure to have very steady hands, because if you move your hand even a bit while the night shot is being captured, the image won't be as sharp. Again, I think Xiaomi 12 Pro is taking best images with the night mode turned on, followed by iPhone. I'm surprised to see such blurry images from the OnePlus 10 Pro. It actually takes the least amount of time for these night shots, so the chances of its images being softer should have been very less. In this particular shot, we see OnePlus 10 Pro clearly did better than the other two. It captured more light overall and also made the colors look better. Most of the recent iPhones are infamous for lens flare in the low light images. In this image, I had the light source directly in the frame, but the iPhone seems to have handled the flare best here. There is a ghost flare in its and Xiaomi 12 Pro shot, but the iPhone's image still looks the most natural here. So when it comes to low light, all seem to be doing a good job with the main camera, and which of these images you like might even come down to your personal preference. None of them is outright bad, so that's a good thing. You can use the wide lens in artificial and lower light as well. These lenses don't have a wide aperture, so I was not expecting a lot from these cameras, but with the night mode turned on, all of them managed to take decently usable images. I still might not shift to these lenses in lower light, but if you want to take night mode shots with the wide lens, you can definitely do it on all of these phones. That brings us to the front-facing camera. iPhone gets a 12 megapixel selfie camera, while the other two get a 32 megapixel one. I will zoom in on these shots, and you tell me in the comments which one do you think captured more details. The selfies have never been iPhone's strong suit, but despite of having a lower resolution sensor, its images look comparable to the ones from the other two. Xiaomi 12 Pro doesn't do all that well if you have bright light behind you, and in some of the shots, even the OnePlus 10 Pro messes up the dynamic range like you can see here. Coming to the portrait selfies, edge detection is equally accurate from all three, but the Xiaomi 12 Pro completely blows up the brighter parts in your shot. iPhone and OnePlus are handling the brighter areas much better. As I said before, I am not much of a selfie taker, so other than for taking and making a few video calls, I barely use the front-facing camera on my phone. But if you take a lot of selfies, you can have a look at these images and decide for yourself which one looks better. That being said, I do understand that Xiaomi really needs to fix the issue of the brighter areas in these shots being blown out. Here's a video from the front-facing camera of the OnePlus 10 Pro, iPhone 13 Pro and the Xiaomi 12 Pro. You can see how all these phones are handling the overall colors of the scene, exposure and stabilization when I'm walking around with them. You can also let me know in the comments which one of these do you think is handling my voice better. iPhone 13 Pro can shoot these videos in up to 4K 60 FPS. Xiaomi 12 Pro can shoot them in 1080p 60 FPS. And the OnePlus 10 Pro can just shoot them in 1080p 30 FPS. With that, we have seen close to 100 image and video samples from each of these phones, and I feel the iPhone is the most consistent performer of all three. It might not be the best in terms of video resolution options, and it doesn't even get a high resolution sensor behind any of its three lenses, but it still delivers the most consistent performance, and it is difficult to take a bad image with it. OnePlus 10 Pro takes very good HDR shots, but the colors that it captures are not how they look in real life, and some of its images also look very soft, especially in artificial or lower lighting conditions. Xiaomi 12 Pro takes detailed images, but all of its images have a lot more contrast, which I am not a big fan of. But even with that, it is overall consistent in the way that it captures images. I hope Xiaomi will push an update which will lower the contrast a bit. That might even make it one of the best cameras in its price range. That being said, all these phones are best of the best, and if you look at their images individually, they all look really good. Just choose the one that looks best to you, and please try and be happy with your choice. If you are still undecided, you can go back to the start of this video, mute it, watch it in the highest resolution that your device supports, possibly on the biggest display that you have, and make your own decision that way. And definitely let me know in the comments which one do you like the most. If you are planning to get any of these phones, I will really appreciate if you get them from the affiliate links in the description section. That is it for this video, guys. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel for a lot more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.